Everybody, how's it going? I know it's been a while, but welcome to the Nightmare Podcast. Um, October 5th, 9:30. Uh, quite the weekend. If you're a baseball fan, we got you had four games today. Currently, right now, I'm watching the Yankees, and I'm a Yankee fan. Watching the Yankees in Kansas City right now. It is 6-5 Yankees, a little bit closer than it should be. I mean, this is probably the easiest road that the Yankees will have to get back to the World Series. I mean, it's Central American League Central teams. Yankees normally dominate them. Twins, Tigers struggle sometimes with the Tigers. Guardians, Kansas City. This should be a fairly simple, uh, you know, road for them to get to the World Series, but we will see. Mets continue to have an amazing run, so if you're a Mets fan, you must be delirious right now. But this is a wrestling podcast, not about baseball. But I was just watching back and forth with the Bad Blood pay per view or PLE that just went off the air just now. First off, what I want to say is that like I said, I like WWE doing their PLEs on Saturdays. And I think it's a good idea they start at 6 o'clock. Usually they do 7. I think this is good. Look at it's 9:30. You could still go out to go do something, meet a friend or whatever. Unlike AEW. But you know what? Let's just jump right into it. I thought it was a very exciting pay per view. Excuse me, PLE. A lot of energy, and believe it or not, actually, all the matches were pretty good. I mean, obviously the Hell in the Cell match that started off the show was phenomenal. Um, you know, I had a feeling when Drew pulled out the back, I'm like, it's not going to be thumbtacks. It doesn't make sense to be thumbtacks because it doesn't fit with either person. Even if you want to say, well, Punk had a little bit of association with Paul Heyman, ECW, that didn't make sense. I thought it was going to be the bracelets that Punk wore, but they just did the bees and were actually bracelets. But I'm like, it can't be thumbtacks. A, it doesn't make sense. B, everybody's going to expect it to be thumbtacks, and you're going to do something different. But that was a very good PLE. The one thing that I did not like about this PLE was that announcement by Triple H. I thought it was stupid because I thought what was underneath that sheet, because there's been talk about introducing a women's intercontinental and a women's United States championship. Clearly, you could tell there was only one belt underneath. So I thought it was either a United States championship for the women or an Intercontinental title for the women. Listen, WWE has a deep roster when it comes to the women's division now. They need more to go after than just the women's um, championship or the world title, or they've been making it. Nobody takes the tag team seriously. But if you are already developing that, you might as well have a secondary title on each show for somebody to go after. So hopefully they will pull the trigger on that. But that's what I thought this was. The Crown Jewel thing. I mean, aren't we past 10 years now? It was a 10-year deal. So maybe this is the 10th year. It started in 2014 when they made the deal with Saudi Arabia. To tell you the truth, I'm hoping it's done soon because there's really nothing great about Crown Jewel or anything like that. But obviously, they did it for the money. They did it for the fan base out there. But, hopefully we'll be done with this Crown Jewel. Excuse me, we'll be done with this Crown Jewel stuff pretty soon. But I thought the announcement was stupid. I thought the idea of having that championship was stupid. I thought it was a waste. But as you saw, they used it to bleed into a segment with Bill Goldberg. Now, before I get into what they did with Gunther and all that stuff, at the end of that segment, did you ever think you would see Triple H holding up the hand of Goldberg, patting him on the back like they are friends? Now, for the younger people who happen to be listening to this who may not know the history, Goldberg and Triple H did not like each other for a long time. Now, granted, everybody is older, and when you're older, you move past all the immature bullshit that you did. Obviously, neither one is wrestling anymore, so, that ego portion is not there. I mean, well, ask Bret Hart because he's still holding a grudge. But either way, I just thought that image was just sort of like a little surprising to me, considering the history of those two. Triple H apparently said some incendiary comments about Goldberg, and he wasn't that great. And then obviously they went into WWE, when Goldberg came to WWE, they started to work together right away. But there was always tension between the two. it seemed like once Goldberg left in '04 and then came back, what was it, 20, what was it, 2014 he came back, 2013, 14 he came back, or 15, whatever Survivor Series that he came back at against Brock, obviously he was older, he had a different attitude, and everything seemed to be on better terms. But it was just surprising to see that. The segment for what it was, I mean, it was fine. I mean, once Gunther came out, you kind of had the idea that Goldberg was going to be involved because he mentioned him last week. So you kind of had an idea something was going to happen. I kind of thought Gage was going to get involved. I mean, remember when we first saw Gage in Survivor Series? He was this little kid, the baby fed all this. I mean, even before we saw him before when they were doing the thing with Bobby Lashley, you saw, oh wow, look how he grown. But look at him now. I'm like, Jesus Christ. The one thing I have to say, at least, listen, I'm gonna be 38 next month. The one thing I gotta say with the younger kids who are, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, what is the obsession with the mullet? I don't understand it because it just seems like everybody has a mullet, whether they're a baseball player, whether they are a football player, whether they're basketball. I don't really see too much of basketball or hockey. It's just like everybody seems to have this freaking mullet, and you can see that Gage is growing a mullet. Yes, I know Dom has one, but Gage's is not as long, and you can see he's sort of shaving the mullet down into like a faux hawk kind of thing he's got going on. I'm just like, Jesus Christ, what is this obsession with the mullet? But I mean, I don't know if Gage should get into wrestling or not. I mean, he's a stud. He's a good looking kid. Does he want to put harm to his body doing this? My mother worked with somebody who was like a part-time wrestler. Like he would like do some stuff at night or on the weekends we can get away. And I remember her telling me that, his body was just, he destroyed his body, like his hips, all that kind of stuff. So, when I look at Dom, I'm thinking, Dom, you're young. Like, how long are you going to go into this if you want to ruin your body and all that stuff? But, that's beside the point. But I don't know if this leads to anything with Goldberg. I mean, clearly Goldberg was upset with Vince that he never honored the deal about him, having a final match in a retirement. I mean, this could be the start of something. Who knows? It could have just been the segment because he was just there. I mean, obviously there was a lot more legends there, but they really only incorporated Goldberg into the show. So let's see. I'm not saying we're going to see Goldberg versus Gunther or anything like that, but is this Goldberg's door to get back in? If that's the case, obviously 2025 is going to be more about John Cena. Is Goldberg going to wait a year? Are they going to do them simultaneously? But obviously, John Cena is going to get more of the who knows? Who knows how they're going to do it? But either way, the segment was fine for what it was to get more heat and excitement for the match on Monday. Like I said, the first match with Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, I thought was great. They had to have blood in it. I mean, you cannot have Hell in a Cell match, street fights. To me, you cannot have this without drawing some blood. So the story was great, the emotion was great. Obviously, this is clearly the end of the feud. There's speculation that CM Punk now moves on to Gunther. I've read that they want to keep CM Punk and Seth Rollins separate for a little bit. Does that mean they want them to go at WrestleMania? Do they want them to go at SummerSlam? So SummerSlam is going to be 2 nights. I don't know how they're going to want to do it. They're going to want to save it that way. I mean, will CM Punk be the one to dethrone Gunther because they want to have CM Punk versus Seth Rollins? Because clearly that is the next path. But Seth is occupied with Bronson Reed right now. So maybe that feud will go into Crown Jewel. They'll do something at Survivor Series. Maybe they'll do something at the Royal Rumble. I don't know. But clearly we're not going to see Seth versus CM Punk anytime soon. So perhaps this is the build now to have him go face. Because on the roster for Gunther, who is more likely to dethrone him? We know it's not going to be Sami Zayn. Is there anybody else on the roster who really makes sense? And it's really CM Punk who makes sense to do that. The Damian Priest and Finn Balor match, it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't anything exciting either. I mean, we kind of knew that's the way it was going to go. So, that's really all there is to say about that. Where Damian Priest goes from here, I don't know. Perhaps there will be a rematch. Perhaps Finn is going to try to get some revenge. Um, because it's kind of hard, if it ends, where does it go? See, unlike Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley, that story can continue. And it might continue with Damian because he's going to be there to help her. So perhaps we're going to get a little more Judgment Day, a little bit more Finn Balor and Damian Priest, perhaps, because if this is like the end of their feud, it's like, well, where does Damian go? Does Damian go after the IC? And you want two baby faces doing that? Does he get involved with? Does him and Drew McIntyre kind of do something? I mean, where does it go? After this. I thought the match with Rhea and Liv, again, wasn't anything spectacular. I'm not surprised how it ended. With Liv saying that I'm smarter than you, clearly indicated that there was going to be some sort of outside interference. And I was trying to think, like, okay, who could come and interfere on her behalf? I completely forgot about Raquel. Completely forgot about her. So I was like, well, it has to be somebody who's going to be as big as Rhea, stronger or whatever. And I'm trying to think, like, who is that person? And clearly it was a surprise, I think, to everybody because I think we all forgot about her. So it is what it is. I I would have thought it would have been a mistake for Liv to lose the title right now. I think she should continue because that'll mean more. I think with Rhea finally, I think Rhea will be the one to take it from her, but I just think continue the babyface chasing. When is it going to happen? Maybe it'll be at Crown Jewel, which I don't think it should be. Maybe it'll be at the Survivor Series. I mean, do I see them trying to have Rhea win the Royal Rumble again so she can challenge her? I don't think the storyline can go that much longer. So I would think that Rhea will get her revenge finally, either at Crown Jewel or Survivor Series. But I'm going to lean more towards Survivor Series if that happening. And and then what we saw with the tag match with the Bloodline versus Cody and Roman. I mean, I think everything pretty much what we expected happened. Um, Not too surprised that Jimmy came back at some point. Jimmy was going to have to, make his comeback. And we see the first plug. We see that first piece being put in because clearly it's going to be Bloodline versus Bloodline at Survivor Series and War Games. And now we got that first piece installed of Roman and Jimmy. So obviously the next thing is to get Jay involved. And Jay is probably going to be the last person that they pull in. Now you have 4 people on Solo's team. The Bloodline is going to be short one person. Who's that person going to be? I don't know. Do you bring in Cody? I don't know if you bring in Sami Zayn. If it's between Sami and Cody, it probably makes more sense for it to be Sami Zayn than it does for it to be Cody. So could it be the Tongaloas, um, the Samoan werewolf, and Jacob Fatu, and um, Solo versus Roman, Jimmy and Jay, and Sammy? It's a possibility. Now you got this monkey wrench of The Rock because The Rock came back. Now there was talk that Rock was going to be Jesus Christ, Aaron Judge. God, you think he struck out like all night. Right now the Yankees are up 6-5, bottom of the 8th, but I still like to have some insurance runs on this. Um, now that The Rock is back, we knew The Rock was going to come back at some point because he said he was going to come back. We know he's going to have something to do, with Cody. So again, where does this go? Do we get Cody versus Rock at Survivor Series? Because clearly we're going to get Gunther and Cody at Crown Jewel. Or we're going to get The Rock and Roman. I mean, where The Rock fits in, who knows? So to even speculate we're going to get Rock versus Roman, which to me now does not make sense to happen. You had the opportunity to do it, and they decided to pivot. Because WWE, like I said before, put themselves in a corner. You already had Cody win the Royal Rumble. And now you have The Rock come in to sit at the head of the table. And then you're going to have the winner of the Royal Rumble step aside. That was a stupid storyline. And now they're saying, oh, well, we pivoted. You didn't pivot. You didn't swerve anybody. You did it because the fans said this is stupid. It sucks. And it doesn't make sense. Why would the winner step aside to get the chance to face the person that beat him before? Why would I graciously step aside? That was stupid. And if they had did it the other way, if they had Rock win the Royal Rumble, but there was a certain way you had to do it. You couldn't have Rock eliminate Cody. Either don't put Cody in the Royal Rumble at all. For some reason, give him an injury that he couldn't go, because it was going to be the same thing you had with Daniel Bryan when they were pissed that year that Daniel Bryan didn't win. That was the year I believe Roman won. Was it Roman that won that year? That when The Rock came out, because that's when Rey Mysterio came back, and they hijacked the rest of that Royal Rumble, and they were booing and they were pissed because they wanted Daniel Bryan. So you couldn't put The Rock and Cody in the Royal Rumble at the same time because they didn't want The Rock. They wanted Cody. And then you had Cody win, and then you take him out. So to me now, The Rock versus Roman has lost that flair that it would have had. Because Roman should have beat The Rock. And they can still do the match. But Roman winning really doesn't mean much anymore against The Rock. It doesn't. Not as before. If it was prior or at WrestleMania, different story. But the way they went about it screwed it up. So I don't really want to see Roman versus Rock. I really want to see Roman. I really want to see Rock versus Cody. But I think we're going to get to that. Now, I don't know who's going to be the one to take the title off of Cody. I don't know if them and Roman are going to trade back and forth. Undertaker said in his podcast, that's a weird sentence, right? Undertaker podcast. Undertaker said in his podcast that he thinks Cody needs to turn heel, or currently heel. If he turns heel, maybe Roman takes it back. I don't know how that's going to work out. But I don't see Cody turning heel anytime soon, especially with The Rock back. Now, clearly The Rock came back as the heel, coming back as the final boss. So is he aligning himself with Solo? Is he pissed that Roman team with him? I don't know how it's going to go. So, we got a little bit of a lot of balls in the air now, because clearly we have Bloodline versus Bloodline coming. But now you got The Rock and you got Cody. So maybe that takes Cody out of the storyline as far as Roman and Solo. Cody can go off and deal with The Rock while Roman deals with Bloodline business. Now, speaking of Bloodline, there's one comment I want to say about Jey Uso. Because Vince Russo had made a comment, he didn't understand why he was so emotional during that promo when the belt's a prop and it doesn't mean anything. Yes, as wrestling fans, we know that the belts don't mean anything. This is all staged, it's a show and all blah, blah, blah. We know that. But I think the emotion came from the acknowledgement from the company that, okay, I was a tag team my entire career here in WWE. It was the Usos the whole time. Now there is faith that I can stand on my own with a singles championship and be featured on my own without being surrounded by my brother or Roman or Sammy or anybody. I can stand on my own 2 feet. I got the yeet thing going. I got the fans behind me. I can do this on my own. I think that's more where the acknowledgement, where the emotion came from, was the acknowledgement from the company. Not so much that he had the quote-unquote prop of the title. If Stanton struck out. Jesus Christ. The one thing about this series with the Yankees, they have had a lot of men on base. A lot. and they have not been able to score every opportunity. Granted, it is 6-5, but it is a painful 6-5. Now, I know I'm jumping back into baseball, but I have always said when you get to the playoffs, now with the ALDS and Division Series, they're playing home. You need to win your first two home games because just chances are you're gonna drop one on the road. Teams really don't play that well on the road, obviously. So if you win game one, you win game two, you can afford to drop game three or four. Either you win it there or you lose both, but at least you got the opportunity to have that final game played at home. Switch it up. The Mets are playing on the road. The Mets need to win those two games, or at minimum needs to win one game because games three and four is going to be in their home turf. What's going on with the Mets is fucking amazing. Hence the amazing Mets. But I'm just surprised. But again, I'm sorry I got off topic with the wrestling. But overall, I thought Bad Blood was great. I thought they did a great job, and I really felt the crowd was hot for a lot of it. Believe it or not, even in Nia Jax and Bailey match, which I hadn't commented on, they really more so got hot once Tiffany came out. Um, I'm glad Nia won. I think Nia needs to have a pretty decent run. It's been a long time she's the champion, and again, somewhat of her character, should hold that title for a while. And most likely, for somebody to beat her, it should be in a cheapish way. So eventually, Tiffany's going to cash it on her eventually. But the match was nothing great, but, to me, the crowd was hot. Because normally, when you have that hot open, whoever follows typically is not going to get the best reaction. I thought the crowd was pretty consistently hot through the whole show. And they really exploded when The Rock came out. Well, they exploded for Jimmy and they exploded for The Rock. So, all in all, it was a great PLE, and I like how they kind of leave you wondering, okay, so what are we going to do? Where does CM Punk go? Where does Drew McIntyre go? Where does, we kind of know where Roman goes. Where does Cody go now? What is The Rock? Is The Rock going to go after Roman? Is The Rock going to go after Cody? Is The Rock going to, berate Solo for, what's happening? Is The Rock going to take the mantle of Tribal Chief because Solo failed? That's what I like when they leave you with that, okay, I don't know where this is going next. That's the real creativity. Like I said, the only downer of the show was that stupid announcement that Triple H made. To me, it means nothing, it's stupid, and it's ridiculous. But I'm going to leave it here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed Bad Blood. As always, post your comments and what you think. The Yankees are in the top of the ninth. I'm going to sit here and hold my breath and hope that they can win this and this person does not score or whatever. So, and I was going to go to this game too. I started to buy tickets, but I'm like, you know what? If they make it to the League Championship Series, I'll do it because I've only been to one playoff game and they lost against the Astros. I asked my mother if she ever went. She said no. My aunt hasn't gone either. I believe my sister has gone. But if the Yankees make it to the ALCS, I will buy 4 tickets and I will take my mother, my sister, and my aunt. God, that's going to be a lot of money because if we went to this game, it would have cost over $700 because some seats were like 170, some was like 160. I think that was the cheapest amount I saw actually was 160, and everything else was like 200 and something, 300 and something. I saw a couple of $1,000 ones. So if the division series was $1,000, I could believe that the league championship is going to be probably like 15 to 2,000, and then if they get to the World Series, forget about it. So, but anyway, go Yankees, and talk to you soon.